thank you for your incredible lessons, sir. And I can't thank you enough for what you do and how you do it. Okay, so we're going to continue what we were doing this morning, kind of with a little bit different pizzazz. Would you say, where's your UK? Where's your UK?
Fell over.
I think I killed them all.
Okay.
Here's,
There's another one. There's one.
Who, John?
he's trying to get out of there.
He looks pliable.
Are you available to do? Okay. Now where's my Tory go?
It's behind you over here.
Well, come here. Oh my God. When I tell you attack, attack, okay? Just your normal attack. I'm Ellen, I love you, Daddy. Attack. Good job. Change anything? Attack. Now attack me.
Okay, a little more aggression there.
Yeah.
I'm fine. I don't know how he is. And I chose, I've been planning this, I did this to Jeff down in Killeen, and Jeff actually, I actually usually his little girl, and he actually picked her up and took her to the fight. Which,
That's pretty cool.
well, not really. If they got an eye for a gun, you want to kind of protect them. The whole point is being able, I mean, we're attacked with guns and knives and swords and sticks and all this. But how often do you have Ellen with you? All the time. I mean, I've had kids tracing through the woods with me forever, doing something. So I'm constantly, matter of fact, my 12-year-old daughter or granddaughter just ran off last week, and we finally got her back after 3 days. But try that scenario. Now, instead of holding their hands and jerking them around, and I want to say something else. Child abductions are a big thing. You read about it a lot here and all over. You always have a second assailant, okay? So it's just like when you're Rondorian, you've got to keep track of Ellen, you got to keep track of him, plus you also got to continue scanning for that second assailant. So you can't commit you for a second assailant. You're Ellen this time. You can't, and he's attacking. You can't just run off here and drive him off and leave Ellen back there, because while you're fighting this guy, Joe Bode partner might come in. So you have to keep a relatively safe distance where you're not falling over your child or, you know, people that you love that are considered, you know, shorter. So try that. Now, do one of those techniques that you did this morning.
I can't even remember what I did this morning.
Any one of them. Doesn't matter, all right? Beautiful, nice. Now, as opposed to normal Aikido, where you're trying to get out of the way, you're trying to put yourself between the bad individual and your loved one. Now later on I'll give you an even tougher scenario. And that's where it's going to come in, where you're going to actually come from your knees. Okay? Grab your partner. Actually have a third person that's on their knees. So you give the attacker or the defensory, give them something to work against. Hold their hand. Step behind, push it behind you where you got both hands available. You know, you don't want to go into a fight with one hand tied behind your back. Okay? A lot more difficult once you enter a third variable in there, isn't it? Got a lot of things to consider. That makes sense? Grab her again.
You're hurting.
Or him. Just like if nothing else, when I push this and I get between them, if they're still holding on, and I at least get between them, going to have much more difficult time hurting the child. Does that make sense? And then I can pop here if I need to. Why not? Or just to know, didn't we do this in the kata this morning? It's the same moves. One more time. Not right where you were. This move that y'all used this morning. Didn't you use that this morning? Didn't that get him away? You're not changing your techniques, guys. Don't change your techniques. These techniques are incredible. Just utilize them as they are in certain situations. Does that make sense? Don't get away from what you're extremely good at. And it's not a race. It's not a race. You get in here and you go, you have time to think. This is not a race. What can I do here? What I need to do something here. If I need to do some judo work here, that's fine. I don't care. That might work better than anything. Paul?
That's fair play.
No, it's Paul.
Oh, excuse me.
So, again, one more time. Stand back a little bit, please, sir. No, back.
You want to grab it?
Just get to that position if you can before they get there. If they've already grabbed, you still do the same thing. You get rid of them so you can do whatever else you need to be doing. Because I don't want to be holding on to the hand while I'm trying to fight this guy, because now he's got two hands to fight the little one with. And he's in a much better shape to hurt them than they are. Okay? So, think about one of your techniques that you've been working on and try it. Don't do something crazy. Just get one of those basic techniques and utilize it. Okay, try it. This shit does work. Except when they don't do it and then it don't work.
If they don't do it, it don't work. When they do it, it works.
Here, wait, let me. Do what you know.
Come here, little boy.
Nice.
we're playing with the idea, you know, little kids, if they feel a threat, they're going to clinch on the hand, right? So you need to get them off that hand, too. And there's several.
It's not like you can go in here and think, well, this is a technique kind of thing, right? Because they're not directed this way. They're not necessarily. They may not be swinging at you. They just may be threatening the
What
opponent.
did I just do?
I know.
That was a gay knockout.
Yeah.
Or a Yakuki mask.
Yeah. So you got behind them. And,
Well, what we were doing this morning, like in a really nugget, but you don't need to have a technique coming at you to do that.
As a professional comes in and says, I've got this business deal. How do you apply that? And you have to adjust it a little bit to fit each business deal that comes up. It's not that you're violating principles, it's you're adjusting to fit a certain situation.
yeah, that's true. Well, I agree with you. That's true.
Now, do I want to step in front of some big burly guy like that? No. But I've got a choice. I can either let my hat kid have it or I can let them have it.
Sure. That's, yeah.
Okay, shall we go to the next scenario? How many people know Daniel Moore? Okay, for those that don't know Daniel, Daniel's been a long-time friend for more years than I can count. His father had a hip replacement done last year, and since November, his hip has popped out 14 times. Oh, yeah. So, oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. Where did you come in at? What happens if you're taking Dad to the doctor? Dad don't want a walker. That's why his hips come out so many goddamn times. That makes sense? What are you going to do there? Does that make sense? What possible scenarios are we going to do? That's where the coming from the kneeling starts coming into play. Can I use you, John? So this is Dad, and borrow you, Eric, for a second. Eric's the attacker, the bad attacker. As soon as I see there's a problem, go ahead. Got to go down, Dad. Got to go down. Does that make sense? Now, I should have probably, sorry, my feet hurt so bad, but I should have probably, I'm protecting his head. And as I'm in here, where are we now? We're right back to those techniques that you were on the ground with. Now, right now, the elderly population in this country is skyrocketed, and if you aren't raising an elderly parent, an invalid elderly parent, you soon will be. Can you see how that validity? What's that first technique that you use from the ground on that kata?
Reminagi. Lunging out of the ground into a reminagi.
Okay. Stand up, John, please, if you don't mind. So he sees me coming, puts Dad down. And there I am. He's got space between me and them. I think that's a valid deal. I got to tell one quick story. Okay, Eric, I'll keep it short. I'm sorry. Here in Lawton, the guy just been convicted and given the death penalty a couple years ago. For some reason, these guys just want to break into elderly people's home and stomp them. Broke in the guy's home, taped him up, told him he's going to rape his wife and let him watch him kill her, and then kill him, which he did. And son comes in the door about halfway through the process, but can't do nothing about it. Now, can you imagine being that guy for the rest of your life? Watching your parents get slashed and you not have the cojones to do something about it? I mean, that's what we prepare for, guys. This is, this is the greatest art I've ever seen in my life. from a tactical perspective. Okay? Every movement in here I have used in really bad situations. And you go, God, that was easier than it was in practice. But you got to keep your mind about you. How many people I talk to in here that, you know, you're not doing your normal stuff when you're keeping them away? Pretty much everybody, you're doing crazy stuff. Forget the crazy stuff. Do this simple stuff that you know and it works. I promise you. Okay? Say time out in the middle of it and go, okay, I'm lost here. And give yourself time to think through it. This is all about you being able to work through a problem. Best teachers in the world don't come over here, give you a mouth problem, they go, well, you need to do this, and you need to do this, and you need to do this, and you need to do this. You give them the principles, make sure they're under the principles, say, go ahead and work it. If you got till the end of the class, if you have a problem, holler at me. That's what principles are all about, allowing somebody to use their own mind to create situations that they can train into. Does that make sense? Steve brought up a good point. He talked about in most Aikido we're getting out of the way first, and in this we're kind of getting in the way. But I explained to him, if in whatever he teaches at the university, if you have private practitioners come in and say, I need help with this problem, you're working around the principle, but you might have to bend it just a little bit. You might have to get away in the way of the attacker for that business. You might have to get away from it a little bit different for another business. You're not violating the principles, you just have a different objective. Does that make sense? So it's not when you get crazy, stop and go, what's my best technique, and do it. Don't just be pushing around and shoving around. That's not what this is about. This is about true Aikido. This is about putting your Aikido into practice for a valid and the most important reasons in your life. Okay, if you don't have grandkids or elderly parents, you know, I know a lot of people that I put myself. Chris and Sonia and I and some others made a living doing it, putting ourselves in harm's way. Was that not correct? That's just an automatic response. That's our job. That's who we are. No, do I want to die? Absolutely not. I'm the biggest chicken on God's green earth. That's why I practice so much, so that I might not get hurt if I get into that situation. Okay? So, try that. Somebody be the invalid. Somebody be the Daniel. And somebody be the attacker. Sorry for the story. I know you don't like stories.
About 5 minutes. That's pretty good.
There's nothing wrong with that at all.
They gave me that space again. I tried to get him down. Every time I tried to get him down, I had this already. I let go of hand.
Go down to
Go crazy.
do it again. Go down to a knee with it. Go all the way down to a knee with it. Now you're back to just the cottage you were working before.
Well, that makes sense. I've done that.
You've done it a million times. Plus he's safer. Does that make sense?
It really does, actually. Yeah, it does.
Now I'm not saying that because I might do that if I had Grandpa and he's coming in like in basketball, the block out, he comes in, blocking out a little bit, and then do this. Does that make sense? The priority, again, is the person you're protecting.
doesn't work.
But
I want you to get down.
what was the first techniques you were working in here a while ago? Try the Kote Gaesh this time.
Actually, I like that.
Wait. Just get right back there where you were. You've got to Kote Gaesh right there. Get it. Now, don't you have to take it back that way.
Oh, that's a good point, bro.
There you go.
Is that your good leg?
You know, just because your car is going in this direction doesn't mean you can't back it out and go 360 degrees. Take what you get and utilize it. You don't know what you're going to get, but what you can do is in all this group of principles, recognize, relate, and utilize. Does that make sense?
It does. Well, just getting the brain engaged and thinking about options, thinking about possibilities, experience.
Absolutely. Okay. Tell them, Chris.
What's that? Oh, trying to get grandpa, grandma, whatever down without harming. I mean, it creates an issue where you're trying to control them down, so you really got kind of two choices. You can either divide, do two different things with both hands, right? Try to control them down while you're dealing with this, or you can go to a knee with them, take them to the ground, and then now we're dealing with
The techniques you were working on earlier.
correct.
Thing is not to panic. The answers are all there, guys. The only thing you have to do is relate them to the problem that comes to you. Does that make sense? And these are just a couple scenarios. You don't live my life. Your scenarios might be different. So I encourage you to look at those scenarios that you have in your life, that you deal with most often, and build stuff with it to answer your own problem. You see Eric and I over here, we're not over there playing knives, we're over there problem solving. Is that not correct?
Sure.
We're problem solving. It has nothing to do with learning how to be beat up with a knife or take the knife. Well, I mean it does, but the principle is your brain is constantly working on different problems and solutions within the principles you've already learned. And that's what I'm saying. When you're doing this stuff, when you're building these scenarios, stay within the principles. I will say this a billionth time. They're what makes this stuff work. Now I'm a big hoss and I can come out here and trounce people pretty good until I wear out just because I'm big. Or I can get out here and play all day long and nobody gets hurt. And nobody hurts me when I stay within the principles. John, what happened before you started working your principles? What were you doing?
Just moving him or moving the attacker around.
Having a dog fight, not having a clue?
Yeah.
Then what happened? All of a sudden you started, oh, that's an Osoto, that's a Kosoto, that's a Ushu. I mean, skip the fight. That's why you come see Nick. So he's trying to show you how not to fight, but how to be efficient with your movements. Now the importance of the scenarios is all of a sudden, you got very high level people and you took them out of a caught-up situation, you gave them some actual scenarios, and what happens? How many times we do scenario training in firearms? Every time we go through range. Not because we're being because we read an officer got in this situation and nobody's really answered that. So we work on that and we come up with our own answers. Your answers are not going to be the same as my answers, and that's okay. I don't want them to be. Whereas the math teacher, if you don't do the formula just right and the answer's correct, you're wrong. We're just the opposite of that. All I want is the answer correct. And the answer to that's survival. Okay? Any questions on that?
We got that same scenario all the time in rehab. Folks are either asking us or joking with us, or we get an inspector in that asks you, how do you catch somebody when they fall? And I'm like, you can't catch somebody when they fall. But I might grab them and slow them down so they don't hit their head.
Absolutely. What did we just do there?
And this thing that we were doing last is probably, in my class, the most commonly practiced technique. Whatever technique we're doing, at the end of it, you sit him down and you end up here above him. And you might not jump with your knee on grandpa, but you're sitting the guy down properly after every throw. So every throw is a repetition of what you're talking about.
Hey, y'all. Anything else anybody wanted to say? Okay. Mr. Lowry. Mr. Lowry has put himself in harm's way over a longer period of time for more people than any other human being I've ever met in my life. So in honor of him and with his acceptance, I'm going to name these the Nick Lowry drills. Seriously. I'm done. That's about all I got for now.
Basic principle to the point.
What else is there?
For an hour, and then we'll run off to have a bite to eat. How about that? Sounds good. Come back at 7 for judo.
Excellent.
That was excellent.